All the years of campaigning have given me one clear message. Voting isn't the most we can do, but it is the least. To have a democracy, you have to want one. Still, I realize this fully only by looking back. At the beginning of the 1980s, I went to Missouri to campaign for Harriet Woods in her US Senate race. I bet there are people here who remember Harriet Woods, right? She was a great candidate, and her path into politics was so improbable that no one could have made it up. As a mother of 2 young children, she complained about a noisy manhole cover that awakened them every time a car rolled over it. When she got nowhere with the city council, she circulated a neighborhood petition to close the street to cars. It worked. This success led her to run for the city council. She won, served 8 years, got appointed to the State Highway Commission, ran a successful race for the state legislature, and was reelected there too. All this made her a viable candidate statewide. Still, this was not enough for the state Democratic Party. It's going to sound familiar to a lot of people. When it came time to choose a primary candidate in the US Senate race, it backed a well-to-do banker who had never run for anything, but who had written checks. But she turned out to have something more important than her party's blessing: community support and volunteers. She beat the rich guy 2-1. Suddenly, Harriet Woods was in a race with Republican Senator John Danforth. He was not only the incumbent, but a former Attorney General of Missouri, an ordained Episcopal priest, and the rich grandson of the founder of Ralston Purina. It was as if she were running against the entire patriarchy. When I went to campaign for her, I could see that all the new feminist electoral groups were working their hearts out, and they were volunteering in her statewide campaign. Though Missouri was often counted as an anti-choice state, Woods refused to budge from her support for reproductive freedom as a fundamental human right. In the end, she won in rural Republicans' areas anyway, including one so conservative that it was known as Little Dixie. But in the final week, she had run out of money and couldn't answer the last-minute storm of virulent attacks. She lost by less than 2% of the vote. It was so clear that she could have won with money to answer those last-minute attacks that her race inspired the founding of Emily's List. And this PAC went on to attract 3 million members and become one of the biggest in the nation, as well as the single biggest resource for women in politics. But Danforth did win. He took with him to Washington an African-American lawyer named Clarence Thomas, who had been working for Monsanto, the agrochemical giant that gave us Agent Orange, genetically engineered seeds, and more. Indeed, Danforth got him that job at Monsanto too. As Danforth explained, he was very attracted to Thomas, not only because he was a rare African-American conservative, but also because he too had studied to be a priest, in his case, a Catholic priest. All this happened decades ago, yet the impact of her loss by a few hundred votes goes on.